Hello and welcome back to the next iRacing content, and today we're at Tsukuba for the first race of two that I'm going to be sharing with you in today's video. So you can see this is one of the events which has the Cadillac and the Kias in, so I'm going to be driving this blue and white Kia which you'll be seeing in the frame right now. Now my reasoning for this is it's probably most likely the car I'll be driving in real life. Front wheel drive, not particularly powerful. I guess the only difference is it probably does have a bit more power, and they're on the slick tyres and obviously a bit more aero as well. Nonetheless, going to turn one, we're starting on pole in class, but all of the Cadillacs decide to sort of back up into the first couple of corners, so we're keeping up with them. And in fact, we were looking down the inside of a Cadillac briefly before he put his foot down. Now, into the hairpin, carnage ensues in front. I'm backing up. There are cars, well, Cadillacs flying around all over the place. There's a car just driving into the middle of one of the Kias, hits one of them, and I think that puts them out of the race or gives them some significant damage at least. And still, nearly 3/4 of the way through this lap, we're still right on the tail of the Cadillacs because they're still fighting away amongst each other. But nonetheless, next hairpin, a relatively simple exit here, and even though there are Cadillacs in front that have got damage, I think this grey one is going to pull to the inside and get out of the way, which is fair play to him because he could have just continued going around and got in the way of everyone, but he didn't. He got out of the way, and now there's a bit of a gap between the Cadillacs, which are significantly faster. I think around here we're sort of 4 or 5 seconds a lap faster, and us in the Kias. So I was quite happy with my start. I avoided all of the carnage, and now we've got some of the Cadillacs coming up behind us who have either got involved with incidents early on or already a couple of laps down through missing the start. So right here I'm not actually being lapped or anything, which means that I don't have to just jump out their way because we're still technically fighting for position on track, even though we're definitely in a different class to him. So he doesn't manage to squeeze down the inside of me here. I have to turn into the apex eventually, but he does get me on the exit here. He doesn't run into me. It was looking close, but he didn't manage to do that, so that's good for us. We've got the Cadillac out and in front of us here, but some of these Cadillac drivers, even though they've got the quicker car, were struggling quite a bit here. This track isn't the easiest, but it's one I actually do quite enjoy because I remember driving it quite a bit on Gran Turismo back in the day, as you'd say. And yeah, really good time, and I'm happy to get back on it on iRacing. I didn't realise it was on iRacing, to be perfectly honest, but nonetheless, now a Cadillac comes out in front of us in the pit lane, or just coming out the pit lane, and he didn't do us many favours here. So he comes out the pits in our way, messes up turn one, gets right in our way here. This cost me, I'd say, at least a second here because he was just all over the place here. He wasn't really, giving up any sort of position here. I mean, fair enough, he's in a faster car, but at the end of the day, he is getting blue flags for me here. So I think at least he could have been a little bit more cautious here and not. Maybe he could have just put the brakes on and overtaken me later in the lap, but I guess it is what it is, but it was a little bit frustrating at the time. Now, we're coming around the last couple of corners here, and we're coming out to lap a Kia. So this is a car that's probably been, it's definitely been involved with some contact. As you can see, there are some bent panels on that car. So we dive down the inside here, but he keeps his foot in round the outside, and I'm being cautious at this stage because you can see at this point I've got a significant gap, at least about 5 seconds here, back to second place here. So I am being cautious. I'm trying to look one way or the next. That's the reason why I didn't just sort of fly it into turn one and just hope for the best. I didn't want to go too crazy here because I knew I had a nice little advantage here, but I don't know whether it's the damage or just the driving, but this Kia driver was struggling, to say the least, and I was going to do my best to get past him as quickly as possible, and then into the hairpin, nearly contact. I think they were deciding to turn in, and maybe at the last minute they decided to, to have mercy and give me the position there, and thankfully that didn't go on for too much longer because I felt like contact was coming. Now, this is getting lapped for the first time by the leader in the Cadillac class here. A nice little move by him. I didn't want to put up too much of a fight, but it was interesting to note, like mid-corner, we were keeping up with him, even though obviously he was on a bit of a, not ideal line. And then into the second hairpin here, I think a lap later, we were getting lapped once again by the 3 car. I saw at the last minute, he wasn't going to take no for an answer here at the hairpin. He was going down the inside of me, so I had to give way here, and I felt my lead was still growing at this point. I wanted to make sure I just brought this car home because I was dealing with the traffic quite well here, because it's a bit of a different ball game because I've not really been in these sort of situations before because I haven't really done many multi-class races like this, especially when I am in the slower cars. So in that situation, I made the mistake by trying to let the guy through. I think the best idea is just staying on your line and let the faster car find a way through, which there's evidence of in a minute there. But we also put another lap on one of our friends that I think we've already come into contact with. Now, this was a situation where some of the sort of slower Cadillacs were trying to get past me here. He basically ran into the back of me at this point here, but I couldn't disappear. That's probably one of the toughest place to give a position, around this track, because it slims down and there's not really option there to run too wide safely. So I thought I did what I could, but maybe I got a bit flustered in that situation there, because going into the last corner, I brake a tad too late and I'm off into the gravel and I make contact with the outside wall, and I thought that it was it at that point. I thought my car was going to be too damaged and my race was over. So I come back onto the track gingerly and do my best to just sort of get myself back up to speed here. But you can see just braking a few meters too late and just running across the gravel. A lame little touch with the wall there, but you can see bonnet damage and damage to the front left wheel there. Put it out of alignment, which meant that the rest of this race I was going to be doing with damage. And this final replay just sort of shows once again a very lame accident. I actually lifted off the brake, maybe a bit too much here. A very small tap with the wall, but that's enough to still cause quite a bit of damage because it's still going in there quite quick. So it was costing me probably near a second per lap on my optimal times, but it's kind of hard to judge when your tyres are going off at the same time. Putting another lap on that guy there, so that's meant he's 2 laps behind me now, at least. But of course I've had to overtake him twice to put him 2 laps down because I made the incident myself. And getting out of the way for the orange Cadillac at the same time, it felt like quite a neat couple of corners, just getting that all done. But yep, definitely worried at this stage here, because you can see in the background I lost a significant amount of time to the second placed Kia, who gained about 6 or 7 seconds on me through this. I built a lead up to about 12 seconds, I think, and that gap had come down to about, I think, 5 seconds. So yeah, a big amount of time was lost there, but I was still able to pull out a bit of a gap each lap. It was a couple of tenths, but better than nothing, right? So I was happy to just continue going round and managing to lap faster than the second place. It was all, I think, going quite well, considering what happened and what could have happened. It could have been much bigger damage. But yeah, I reflect on that, a little bit annoyed at myself, just getting a bit flustered by 2 cars lapping me, and I think just maybe being caught in a situation where I couldn't really do anything through this sort of part of the track here. It was tough for the Cadillac to go around the outside of me through that part of the track, and maybe in hindsight he should have just backed off a little bit and waited, but I realised he had someone right behind him here. So nonetheless, we've got someone right up behind us here. This is the last lap of the race here, and this is being lapped by the leader Cadillac for the second time. I was really hoping that I'd be the only Kia not to be lapped twice, but it is what it is. Around the final corner, and we win our class in the Kia, which is nice. And yeah, like I say, a successful first attempt with the car, and I'll definitely be returning with it in the future. But it's not going to be the same race again for the second one in this episode. We're going to switch it up a little bit here and go and do something a little bit different. Well, completely different. Maybe as completely different as you could get. Formula Renault at Lime Rock. So not particularly great qualifying, but a even worse start here. So 1, 2... and there's a third car going to go past me on my left, but 2 cars go off on the right hand side, so we've only effectively lost 1 position on this start here. But considering how hard it is to overtake at Lime Rock, I wasn't particularly happy with myself here after I just had so much wheel spin at the start. Now I tried to get down the inside of this plain white car here, but he wasn't having it this early on, and he just goes past me straight away. And of course, start of the race, tyres are a little bit cold, brakes are a little bit cold here, so I'm not being too overly aggressive because I didn't want to spin it out and crash on the first lap here. This was my first race in these cars as well, so I'm really exploring all of the different types of cars in iRacing, or as many as possible really here. It's not going to be possible to learn all of them, but I'd like to sort of spread my knowledge as much as possible. So down the inside of the car into turn 1, just a better run through the last corner and getting on the brakes. I was quite happy with that, and this was actually quite a high split. I'm not sure why I was put into it, but it was a high split, so yeah, it was a bit of a learning experience. And there's a car flying off on the inside as well. As you go over that sort of brow of the hill, your car gets very loose depending on setup here, so it was very important to have the right one. And thankfully, someone was really nice in one of the practice sessions that I was in and gave me a really decent setup. I was still a significant amount of time off the fastest guys in this race, but oh well. Yeah, you know, I'm learning still, and I'm happy to say I'm definitely not the fastest right now. So somebody made a mistake down the main straight. I think it's the car 2 in front of us here. So he's making mistakes left, right and centre. I think he might have had damage actually, and he just pulls off at the side of the track. So that's another position gained. I think this is 5th place right now. There's 2 cars sort of going off into the distance, and then there's the car in 3rd. You can see just ahead of the one I'm following directly here. So I'm closing in on this guy here, the white, red and blue car. Predominantly white, but I feel like I've got the speed advantage over him here. I beat him in qualifying, and my qualifying lap was far from perfect. I actually set some alright times in practice, still not the quickest, but good enough. But then we get to the race here and I make a bad start, so yeah. This guy wasn't a fan of me overtaking him, and that's going to be a trend you'll see throughout the rest of this video here. I really had to try my best to get past this guy without causing any contact, because it seemed inevitable at a few points that there was going to be contact, and he'd be the one dishing it out. So in front you'll see a car spinning around. That was the car that was in 3rd place, and he spins across the track. Thankfully for us, does not collect us, but say we were a couple of meters further back, he probably would have collected us, and that would have been the race over. I think it's kind of spooked the car in front here, and you can see he's sort of throwing off some blocking tactics here, but through doing so, not having the best line through the first couple of corners, and we're catching up to the back of him here, but that's definitely not good enough for an overtake here. But once again, we get a better run through the last corner, and is there an opportunity to overtake? Well, he doesn't want me to. He's sort of throwing off his blocking tactics once again. There's a car coming out of the pits at the same time. So it's all going on, but thankfully for us we get through this, and there's a car off in front as well that's going to slow us both up in this situation here. But thankfully we both managed to get past him without too much hassle here. It definitely held me up a little bit through this segment, but I wasn't too phased here. I knew that I was quicker than this guy in front, and it was for 3rd position as well, so I really wanted to get this position, but trying a bit too hard. I spun it around, did my best to hold the brakes here, but yeah, a bit of a slick 360 or 180 I guess, and that got me in the right direction. But I think maybe I put off the car that was coming past me here. That wasn't for position, he was a lap down or something, or maybe multiple laps down, but this car in front here, I think I put him off and he went off track afterwards, so I apologise to him. Obviously my mistake completely there, but nonetheless we're going to try and get back past him as quickly as possible. I was kind of expecting him to be quite aggressive in this situation, because I was totally honest, I thought he was going to try and get some payback on me for messing up his race and giving him a couple of X's damage, but or maybe off track points, I don't know. But down the inside, fair enough to him. I was a bit squirrely on the brakes. Thankfully I didn't crash into him and make that situation even worse. But yeah, he gave them a position, and I appreciate that, because he could have been more aggressive in that. So nonetheless, we're lapping another car there, and he gets out the way quite swiftly, and we're starting to catch up to this guy that we were battling with earlier, the guy that was really aggressive. Now, I think he must have made a slight mistake as well, because he lost quite a significant amount of time. It wasn't nearly as much as I'd done by spinning around, but I guess I had the pace advantage and I was able to catch up to him here. I mean, you can see just through this half lap I've shown you here how much we've caught up to the back of him here, and I was going to try and get this overtake done right away here. So we're in the slipstream. Unfortunately it's not the longest straight in the world, but there's a car off on the inside and this guy just throws a block on me there. I was a bit frustrated at the time, so I was really just trying to take the speed through the corner, and then I don't know whether that was a slight break on his part. He was trying to sort of brake test me, or whether that was just me running into the back of him. Whatever way, it didn't cause either of us any problem, so we're just going to continue on here, and I'm going to try my best to get past him. So I get a nice run out of this part of the track, and I go to the inside here, but I chicken out of it. I didn't want to destroy both of our races there. I think early on a lot of just iRacing in general is just about getting through the lower ranks as best as possible, but once again I've got a nice run on here, and I want to get past him as quickly as possible because I know he's being aggressive here. So we're going to go to the inside here, and he's just going to once again throw a block on me, and I don't know what quite I was doing there, but I eventually get the inside line. I think he realised it was game over. I'd got my nose down the inside here, and if he chopped me off he was going into the wall, and you know, we're battling for third position here. It's distant third position, but at the same time there was no need for us both to be involved with contact, especially if both of us could finish this race in decent positions here. So as you can see in front of me here, we're starting to catch another lapped car here. So even though my pace is nowhere near the pace of the leaders, I'm managing to put out decent pace considering I'm on very old tyres. And you know, there are people coming into the pits, repairing their cars, fresh tyres, and I'm still managing to catch them. I don't know what split I was in. It was a higher strength of field than pretty much every other race I was in. So whatever, I was quite happy with myself in reflection of this race. Apart from the spin, I guess it went quite well. I learned quite a bit, you know, racing against an aggressive driver, trying my best to just get through that situation. And overall, yeah, I guess I'm quite happy with how this race went in general. Even though, of course, I would have liked to have avoided some of the mistakes. Now, he goes off, and I get past him relatively easily. And actually, there's a car in front of him as well, so I'm starting to catch up to someone else. So there's quite a lot going on in this race, considering at this point, the leaders are at least 15 seconds ahead of me. There's not really anyone right behind me now for 4th place, because I was able to pull away from him, and I think he made another mistake afterwards as well. So this is another car going a lap down behind me, so down to the last corner. You never quite know what lap cars are going to do. And I've been in the position being a lapped car as well, so nonetheless, happy to get that position done. But this is the leader with just under 2 laps to go now. And that white car you see come around the corner is 2nd place. And he gets past him round the outside. That means the leader switched position here. The leader has made a mistake with less than 2 laps to go. And quite incredibly, he gets back on the track, gets past this guy pretty much straight away with some incredible race tactics here, going one way to the next. Maybe the guy in the white car just didn't expect him to come back so quickly, but fair play to him. Really good stuff there. Aggressive when he needed to be. And you'd have thought here the white car is going to have the slipstream. They're going down the straight. This is for the last lap here. The white car will surely just dive bomb him here, as he's got the straight line advantage. But the black, yellow, green and reddy coloured car manages to hold him off. So massive fair play to him, and he goes on to win the race here, even though it was ultra close here, and he had lost that position through making a simple mistake with just under 2 laps to go. He went on to win the race still. I just wanted to share that because it's massive fair play, and he was clean and fair about it completely. So on board with myself here, this is my final lap of the race here. Because of that incident ahead, I had caught up sort of time to the leader, but of course it didn't really mean too much. I lost so much early on, spinned myself, and just generally not as good pace as the leaders meant that I think I finished about 15 or 20 seconds behind them. It wasn't a great race by any recollection, but nonetheless a great learning experience. So much went on in this one. I can't to lap this car, but it's the last lap of the race. I don't do anything too silly, and we finish. Happy with that one. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.